struggle, but I ain't stopping. Blue Lotus Ministries, we rising. Ain't no turning back now, let's go! They said I'll fall, try to bury my name, but they don't know I'm built to stand through the pain. Friends turned foes, stabbed me in the back, but I came back stronger, now I'm on attack. I'm the king of my city, I rise, I survive. Through the darkest of times, I'm staying alive. Blue Lotus the family, Phoenix the fire. I'm the preacher, the boss, call me the sire. Rise, awaken, thrive. I'm a beast, I'm alive. Blue Lotus, Phoenix, fire. Ain't no one higher, no one.
Welcome to Blue Lotus Studios, the official podcast of Blue Lotus Ministries, Inc., where we explore the depths of holistic health, spirituality, and community wellness. I'm Thomas Alfred, a holistic health practitioner and the CEO of Blue Lotus Ministries, Inc. Today is May 15th, and did you know? On this day in 1930, the first naturopathic medical school in the United States was founded in Portland, Oregon, paving the way for modern holistic health practices that continue to evolve and inspire us today. We're also joined by Dr. Eddy Consult. Please tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, Reverend. How you doing? It's a pleasure to join you on this unique podcast. And as you know, I'm called Dr. Eddy Consult, or you also call me Dr. Emmanuel Essien. And I'm a general practitioner trained from Eastern Europe, precisely Ukraine. And I have 9 years medical experience clinically, and I'm also licensed to, operate in West Africa, precisely Nigeria as well. And so it's a pleasure to join you, Reverend. And it's a lovely thing, and let's see how our discussions today go in healthcare as well. So I'm quite excited as well. Thank you.
I am too. When I first met you about 4 years ago, I was panicking and I was like, "Oh man, COVID, COVID, COVID," and you were like, "Don't worry, it's it's gonna be okay." And then about 2 years ago, my baby was born, and thank God for you, man, because I know I had bombarded you with every question about tracheoesophageal fistula type C, and I was
Yeah,
probably getting on your nerves. But all
I
right,
remember.
we'll jump into it. And here are a few questions I have for you, and then we'll jump into some other legal, not legalese, but languages in a few minutes. What inspired you to become a physician and focus on medical education?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And for me, the reason why I went into healthcare majorly was because of my family. At first, it was my family's interest that made me want to go into healthcare. Why? Because we are meant to know that our family have a lot of hereditary diseases, probably like hypertension, diabetes, schizophrenia, ADHD. It was common in our bloodline. So genetically, we already programmed to know that some of us are going to have kids that are going to have this problem too. So my parents, especially my dad, said, okay, I feel most of us should invest in healthcare, and we have to prepare ahead of the future just in case we have some of these casualties within the family. And so that was just what drove me, because naturally I'm a fine artist. I love art. I love to draw and paint and do all that. But I drifted into the healthcare sector when I went in there 6 years in Ukraine. Before I graduated, I realized something. I was like, okay, why do I really want to be a doctor? Is it because of my family? Is it because of my dad? Is it because of all that? And something told me, no, I need to find a reason why I'm here. Do I just want to be a regular doctor that, patients come to the hospital, I just prescribe for you, give you some drugs. I don't care. Whatever happens to you, is either you survive or you don't survive. That is when my mind changed. When I saw a lot of people that, despite taking medications or being in the hospital, they still go home or they don't recover or they don't make it. So I started figuring out what is really going on. I tried to figure out what is making people die by the day, even after treatments and medications. So I realized that if you don't get close to them, it's not just about the physical, the spiritual aspect of life is very important. As you know too, like you usually discuss about the spirituality aspect of it. The human being is made of the soul, the physical aspect as well. So you can abandon spirituality as well. So with time, being a professional after graduating like, some 10, 11 years ago, I decided to invest more in like seeing that patients are doing well, not just with medications, psychologically, mentally. They need to be okay. Because as a general practitioner, after reviewing all the sections, what I usually do is I either refer you to a specialist when I see your, problems are getting out of hand. But what I started doing is to stay closer to my patients. Let me know exactly what is causing your problem. Is it, psychologically? Are you okay? Before we now go to the symptoms that is really stressing you. And after the treatment, what else can we do? Can we now bring in, dietary options, nutritional options? What are you really consuming? So I try to help advise some of them to refrain from consuming artificial substances so much. Let's say artificially processed foods, like we all know, high level of fructose in diet and all that. Stay away from high level sodium. Stay more natural. Adjust to the green environment. So this is what gave me a lot of passion to push for them. And then lastly, because my dad is a known hypertensive, I became curious to see how can you manage hypertension without taking so much of artificial pills. Although they are good, how can we play it concurrently? So that's where my point of saying, yeah, this is why I want to really be in healthcare. I want to find solutions to illnesses or how we can manage them to prolong life on it, at least for a while God is doing his own work as well. So that's it.
Right, right. That's amazing because when I became a community health worker, I originally got into it because I wanted to help people. And then here came my beautiful little girl and I was like, "Man, thank God I took these classes. Now I know what to do."
Yeah,
We'll
exactly.
move. Right, it's just amazing how God sits there and pushes you into a position that you did not know that he was aiming for you to have.
True.
Our next question: how has your experiences as a United Nations volunteer shaped your perspective on global health?
So, when we talk about the United Nations, sometimes we forget that, the United Nations have a lot of subgroups, although they don't like saying it. So you're going to look at it like, how has it really helped, healthcare? What have they really done? I think that's the question. Are they really doing the right thing? Is that the question?
More like, what in your experiences, what have you seen in the United Nations that make you question healthcare in general? And
Okay.
then where has it evolved since you've seen it? Like what has it inspired you to do anything different when you see things one way and you know you can do it another? Basically, is where I'm going, but only in the United Nations because I know you volunteer there a lot. So I would like to know the aspects that you have. You don't have to talk negatively on it. You don't have to do that,
Yeah, I
but I
know.
would.
I know.
Okay.
For the United Nations, ever since it was like enacted, like came to existence, since 1945. They have been trying in a way to bring in a lot of countries to have a more like a united front, both volunteers or non-volunteers, more like to see how to address some of the world's best problems. So as a volunteer, I realized that the reason why I joined the volunteer force was I want to see how to render to humanity wherever I'm located without getting worried. Like I want to see how to get things done. You understand? In certain locations, you realize that, oh, these guys are not getting help from their local governments, from their local leaders, and especially healthcare wise. Some countries, some regions, example, Nigeria, Ghana, African nations, even as much as Eastern Europe, across the world, you go to certain regions, America, like there are certain regions you go, you could see people battling certain illnesses. They're not getting the right supplies of medication, or possibly the medications or the vaccines that are sent there is not sufficient enough, or possibly the drugs are contaminated or expired. So there are a lot of issues that made me to look at it like, okay, if I become a volunteer, aside working for the United Nations, I could also influence some of the policies by writing my proposals or talking to superiors and say, hey, you guys have been doing something like this for a long while. Can you guys adjust some of these conditions? Because I feel the biggest problem with the UN is they don't really have direct contacts always to the lowest, local level to really know what's going on there. Although they do a lot to recruit people there. It's very expensive for them to do that. But we need to get closer to hear from people. Example, if we talk about like war afflicted zones across the world without any barriers, like from Gaza down to Pakistan, to Somalia and the rest. You see, these people still suffer a lot, even after so much of money has been pumped in by the United Nations. So when you now extend to look at other sectors under the United Nations, the UNICEF, the UNESCO guys, and all this, you realize that communication is a problem. They don't go down to the bedrock so much. I think there's so much policies at the surface level, and that's where the problem is. And then I think they need to also give room for other, bodies to come into play. More like you need more knowledge, more wisdom, more communication from other bodies, although you're United Nations. Get to learn to know what is really going on within these regions. Let's hear from other people. Because I think that's where they're missing the point. It's a big organization, like you know already. It's quite broad. But
Right.
how much can you guys go down to the grassroots? How open are you guys to new opinions from people that are now within the organization? You understand? Although they try to some extent, but it's not so much. I think we need to dig down to the grassroots, and then we get to know how to solve either health issues or communal crises and so on and so forth. So that's it.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned something. And I wasn't going to go here. I was going to go there with this, but I'm going to go ahead and go there now. How you
Okay.
mentioned how vaccines become compromised by the time they get from where they're going to where they're going. So where I'm going with this is if it's not refrigerated properly, especially if it's made in the US or no matter where it's made from, if it's not refrigerated, it's compromised. If it's
True.
not put in the right atmosphere that it should be in, it's compromised. So you're looking at all the COVID 19 vax injured people, and you're like, wow, it's causing so much damage. But was it properly handled? And is that the reason why you're vax injured? Because normally I take a flu shot, I get sick for a day, hey, I feel better tomorrow. And then next thing you know, I move on about my life. But these COVID vaccines have been causing more damage than they should. And I won't go off on a tangent with that,
I know.
but it just reminded me.
It's a crazy it's a crazy conversation if you want to dive into it, but we can run from it now. Do you know why? Because presently and currently, ever since the Elon Musk gave freedom of speech back on, let's say, on Twitter, let me say that, we get to hear the real truth about what something like the COVID vaccine was really doing. The likes of Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and these guys, some of them have started filing in, like, compensations for people that these vaccines now have side effects, that are affecting people over time. Now, I think the biggest mistakes, like what you said, the refrigerating of the vaccines. Let's talk about it again. You see, now we talked about United Nations and some deficiencies. Now, I may not also blame them totally, like I told you, because each country must be responsible for its citizens, as much as big organizations are doing a lot to save you. And one major problem in some countries is power supply. How much electricity are some countries using? So, we have a lot of vaccines, live attenuated vaccines, the toxoids, the messenger RNA vaccines, and these different types that we're using now. The problem here is the cold chain. How do you store it? Do you have enough power supply to maintain and keep these vaccines, so that they don't get bad or run out of their, half life? Some countries don't have that. Example, in Nigeria, the cold chain due to electricity, except you are a wealthy company into cold chain business, then you can preserve the vaccines. Now let's go about the production of COVID vaccine. Like, if you look at it in a spectrum, when COVID came in, I think around 2000 and, let's say, 2019 to 20 season, which is one of the top seasons. If you look at between 2019 to 20, year 220 to 19, you push it up to 2022. How long did it take for them to make the vaccine? You understand? Although we have technology, why would we rush something as dangerous as an antiviral vaccine, like a vaccine to battle a very unique, dangerous respiratory syncytial virus vaccine? Why would you rush making such vaccine? It's like rushing to make the Middle East respiratory syndrome kind of vaccine, which was very
Right,
deadly. Or you're trying to
right,
rush the way the Chinese made vaccines too for, what do you call it, the different flu they had back then.
right.
So the problem here is the production was rushed. I felt so. I think a lot of companies were trying to cash in on being the first to be endorsed by any government to supply the vaccine, be
Exactly.
it Moderna, be it Pfizer, you understand, be it any of it. And the Russian vaccine, example like the Sputnik, although people will be like, oh, why you talk about the Russians? This vaccine doesn't really have huge, crazy side effects. Let's say like what the AstraZeneca was doing, that they had a court case in the United Kingdom and they're trying to compensate because it says it causes cardiovascular problems like myocarditis or blood clotting issues. And should everybody consume a vaccine? That should be the question. At what age were we introducing these vaccines to people? Who were the real people that were vulnerable to it? Now, were we doing screening properly for people? I don't even understand. Like, Reverend, there's a way that you want to screen somebody before you give anything, be it a natural supplement, anything. You got to hear their history. Or you send them to the labs. Let them run their backgrounds. Let's see what's going on in their blood. So you know that you can't just impose that, everybody just takes something. Because amongst us, we're going to have people that either have blood clotting issues, thromboembolic issues, cardiovascular issues, endocrine problems, nephrologic issues. So you need to really know before you introduce. And then trials must be run, first trial, second trial, third trials, differently, not just running it on animals or rats or something. So when you look at this and you read the history of how much was invested in really screening and seeing that these vaccines would work on people, I think they made a lot of mistakes. Because before now we had vaccines for smallpox, mumps, measles, rubella, and all that. It worked, although a lot of controversies later on. Even RF Kennedy is still saying he's not totally agreeing to some of those stuff, but it worked. But the COVID vaccine had some deficiencies, which they weren't telling the whole world. It's after Elon took on Twitter because they actually gagged a lot of my colleagues. In the US, we saw a lot of our colleagues, doctors that were gagged from talking. They weren't allowed to talk. You understand? They were like, you can say what you don't know, even on Facebook. But finally, after much research was done, they realized that this vaccine shouldn't be for everyone. And then, they were giving multiple dosages, like you got to take a booster. And I had an issue with it. I was talking to my biotech colleagues and my colleagues in virology. I was like, dudes, why would we taking so much boosters for COVID vaccine? And despite this boosters, we're still having subsequent variants pop up. So, this is a big issue. And at the end, they were like, okay, this is an artificially made virus. Although we don't agree totally, we made it from the Wuhan and then it was spread due to mistakes. So possibly they had antidotes, but it was very bad. You shouldn't mislead the world. Almost 5 billion people took that vaccine. And then there are stories that it has a lot of side effects later for some people. It contraindicates, meaning it can mix with other things you're taking and still cause you
Right.
health problems. So that's the talk on the vaccines. And then, they try to bury some of these talks on how many people has the vaccines killed directly, more like the lethal side effects of it. You're not going to see so much of those detail on, Google. And I'm being careful as well. But the main thing here is I have to say the truth. That's one thing about my practice. My practice.
Right.
If I see something is not good for the public, I think we shouldn't let people consume it. You should actually say it clearly, and it shouldn't be like for maybe we want to make money from our people or wealth. I don't think so. Health is wealth already. A healthy community would always, strive much better. So I want to stop there.
Okay. I'll add to this and then we'll move on to the next question. mRNA and spike proteins can be very beneficial. Very, very beneficial.
True.
In the future, especially for cancer, especially for AIDS, especially
True.
for HIV, things that we have not even played around with yet. You know what I'm saying? But we
True.
can come up with a vaccine in a year to get rid of COVID. All right, next question. With over 9 years of experiences, what are some of the most common misconceptions you've encountered in health education?
Okay. This is a huge question, Reverend. This is a big question because we have a lot of diseases. Like when you look at it, I think we have over, if I'm not wrong, it's close to 2,000 kind of diseases. Like they can't even keep the data. There's numerous illnesses that sometimes
Right.
we as doctors we can't even keep count of. But there's something I think is wrong, and the perception here is. Let me put, for example, the biggest problem in some societies or countries. Let's say hypertension, for example.
Right.
We are being trained that high blood pressure is something that you have to keep controlling till you pass on or you leave Earth. So, as medical practitioners, you're told that you have to check your blood pressure in two hospital visits, for example, before you conclude that you are hypertensive. Now, in some setting, not like in the America that you guys take it very serious, or in the United Kingdom, or like let me say in Eastern Europe, I've practiced in like maybe my home country, and I've seen that sometimes we quickly diagnose people with high blood pressure. So I think first problem I will state out here is the rush in diagnosis. Sometimes we need to be very careful. I've observed that in our healthcare, where we sometimes are very quick to diagnose people. We don't take extreme measures in terms of let's dig in more to know really is this the main diagnosis. Some countries do it, some health practitioners do it, some rush it. So hence this is one bottleneck we have in our system. So some people are misdiagnosed with hypertension, they don't have it. Why would I say so? Sometimes, you have stress induced hypertension, probably from your job, lack of sleep, you understand, you're not eating well. That could trigger your blood pressure to fluctuate a bit, possibly push to maybe 140 over 90 zone, which we see as a stage one hypertension, high blood pressure issue. Now, but the question here is this: when do you draw the line? How do you let people know that this diagnosis is for sure what they're battling? Because some people have gone back to other places and they told them, oh, I think you were misdiagnosed. How did this happen? So that's one bottleneck we face in our, practice. So it's always advised that you meet the best practitioners who would calmly, patiently listen to you. The biggest thing and the best thing in medicine is you have to listen to your patients. Listen to them, assess everything. Don't rush and think sometimes everything is the same, because we are trained to manage different symptoms and know how each of them are interlinked. So one person could have almost like two conditions and you don't know, and you just saw only one. So that's one bottleneck I found there. So in the case of hypertension, that has always been going on. That you go to the hospital, after two hospital visits, some would easily say you have high blood pressure. Now, why not make that patient go ahead to do a liver function test, a kidney function test, monitor his ECG for a while? You understand? Check his electrolyte balances, the magnesium level, check a lot of things before you rush to conclude.
The
Yeah.
ketones and all that stuff.
Exactly. Check the ketones, check a lot of things to know what is causing these vessels to constrict heavily. You understand? That is not allowing the blood to flow so well. So when you don't do that and you immediately introduce an antihypertensive medication into some person that you were so quick to diagnose, remember that these antihypertensive medications, the beta blockers, the angiotensin converting enzymes and all that, these guys, diuretics, they are very deadly in side effects. They can cause a negative feedback issue within the person. So this is like a big problem that we face. I'm just using high blood pressure like one of the biggest examples, like how people manage this and sometimes they conclude wrongly. Because when we talk about hypertension, we first say it's essential hypertension, meaning it is your family line, hereditary wise, you're going to pick it. Now, for those who didn't pick it from hereditary line, we say sedentary lifestyle, consuming high levels of sodium, salt, alcohol, weed, smoking. There are a lot of things that tag to it. But how do you differentiate this? How do you help this person out? What if probably you have detoxed that person from overdose of alcohol, or I don't even understand, or consumption of maybe weed or smoking, whatever, and then the person comes back to normal? But sometimes some people will just rush that. Okay, well, because you've been taking this, it has already changed your system. So you're fully hypertensive now. So, bro, you got no choice. You have to be on these pills. I don't even understand. This is what happens. They don't take extra measures to say, hey, okay, let's first detox you. Let's see what happens. In some scenarios, they don't do it. They just go straight to the point that, okay, you need to be on these pills. So that's one bottleneck I see there as well. Then, in terms of holistic care, I also feel that as much as we as practitioners, my colleagues, I always tell them, you're giving them artificial medications, but also call them once in a while to monitor them, to tell them, hey, drink a lot of water, take a lot of fruits, veggies, take stuff, natural stuff that will help you. Although we know some natural stuff contraindicates, like interact with our medications, you have to spell it out for your patients when they come to the hospital. You have to tell them how to interchange them. You can't just tell them, oh, stop eating this. Don't take no green stuff. Like sometimes we tell some patients, don't mix certain fruits with pineapples or oranges or something. Example, aspirin. You can't mix aspirin with oranges at the same time to keep taking. It's going to overthin the blood because the oranges are doing the same effects as aspirin, vasodilating effect. So, we have to calm down sometimes as practitioners and show our patients the way and follow them up even after they've left the hospital. This is the main thing that I've seen that is deficient in our system. The patience to listen, the patience to follow up, you understand? The patience to also listen to your patients, especially, is very important. So let me just stop there so we can hit on.
All right. I'm glad you said that because sometimes the cortisol levels will be so high that
Yeah, the
causes
stress
stroke.
hormones can spike so crazy. And if you can
And
control
that's
that
what
stress
makes
hormone, it's good.
right. Right. It makes it look like it's hypotension. Oh, we gotta throw some medication at him real quick. He's gonna have a heart attack in about 2 years if he
True.
continues down this path. When they know, I'm gonna mention a specific holistic way herb that can actually curb some of that cortisol level. But we'll move on to the next question. It's what role do you see social media playing in spreading medical awareness and combating misinformation?
So here, social media, Reverend, you did it like what we're doing now. We're doing something unique. And that's why, the moment you put a call to me like, Dr. ID, you're gonna do this, I say, yeah. I'm so excited that you called me in on this project because I've been looking for a project like this that we could use platforms to do the right thing, platforms that can educate people rightfully. And you're listening to professionals. It's just like how we're here. You are an expert in holistic care. I'm an expert in general medicine. And we are not having disagreements. I don't even understand. We're coming to common ground and we're discussing details and things that can help the human being and society. But when you look at the social media, there should be a platform that should help educate people rightfully. Unfortunately, we have mixed varieties of information, but the misinformation and the genuine information, and sometimes misinformation is more than the main information. So how do you decipher this to be able to educate people rightfully? So the social media has an advantage. We can use it as a strong tool to educate people on healthcare. Like what we're discussing, we're talking about different varieties of things, how to watch their health. I myself use my platform not for me to show my pictures or music or whatever, because we have that already. I see healthcare as one of the biggest problems. Example, more on the mental health, for example. You hear statistics that say something like 1 in 5 persons is going to face mental health issue. That's wild. That's crazy. And nobody's listening to that. And now on the social media, already I have witnessed, like my own spare time, observatory purposes, people that are already battling different mental health issues just by being on maybe social platforms, spaces, or YouTube Live or TikTok. I've seen these issues. So if we can allow professionals, the likes of I and you and others, to come in with our expertise, talk about this, inform people, let them listen, but they're not going to listen to you because too much information. To whom so much is given, so much is expected. Even like, you've heard about that kind of statement before. Some people
Right.
get too many information that they can't harness it or manage it. So they get confused. So you could be talking about, let's say, cannabis now. Somebody's going to rush. Oh, Dr. ID, why are you just criticizing cannabis? You and Reverend are talking about cannabis. I heard you guys talk. He's not going to listen to the positive aspects and the point where we came in with the negative. He's going to pick the negativity first before the positive. I don't even get the logic. The whole idea is if you mention cannabis, for example, like it's one of a very unique stimulant, drugs, be it artificial, be it the sativa form or the tetrahydrocannabinol, for example. It has a way it works. We still use it medicinally as
Yeah.
doctors. Nerve damages, epilepsy, cancer patients that are struggling with pain. We come in with this. Even some anxiety disorders, we play it around. Some depression that occurs in people, we play it. But there's an extent. We could say something like, oh, never consume more than 50 milligrams of THC. Don't consume more than that. Don't consume so value. We have percentages. That is where medicine as a whole is trying to interact with the holistic people, telling you that, well, we know that thing works, but we here in the medical world, we've run our analysis. We know if you titrate a dosage too much more than this, it can send someone to become, more sedated or go into seizures or have more other problems. So this is how we think we should do it. That is a situation where we're working together to get results. Oh, if you use this on your hair, it works. Now you try to explain to the community what's the difference between cannabis, what's the difference between hemp, what's the difference between the THC. and a lot of other variants that belong to this class. When you can explain that to people and they know both the good, the bad, the ugly, it makes the society much safer than you having an extreme or an extremist, which we have some people that, oh, no, no, don't listen to those guys in the medical world or they read so much. So just take as much as you want. It solved my problem. It made me calm. The psychoactive activity of this drug is so unique. But you've forgotten that it can also push you into psychotic disorder. That
Right.
is why you need your doctor. That's why you need your holistic care practitioner who has tried
Right.
this on several people. You know the dosages, you know how to play it. We know who should take it. Pregnant women shouldn't take this substance. I don't even understand because we know it crosses the blood brain barrier, the placental barriers. So if we are giving, we know the people that are taking it. We know the dosages. How do you titrate this? When should it come in? When shouldn't it come in? So social media can help do that, but we have misinformation as well, trying to suppress the truth and certain details that people should assimilate. Hence, this is why my colleagues in my own world would say, well, we just tell them don't take it at all. It's best to just stay off it because there is no control in this system. Everybody just want to do as they like, and hence it results in seeing some people brought to the hospital almost overdose and passing on. So that's the problem.
Right. Well, I'll say this as well. You know, weed, marijuana, we'll use its actual name. Marijuana causes one thing that I've seen in most individuals that I hang out with. If you smoke it on a prolonged time period for years, right? It causes a breakdown in your mental health, and
True.
it starts with paranoia first. I seen paranoia first. It's like, oh shit, man, somebody's following me, da 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 da, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna be all right. Then all of a sudden they start acting manic. They start acting crazy toward friends, family. They start snapping.
True.
Some people can't really handle it. I've watched a young lady smoke it and pass out, and I was assuming that it might have been laced with something. We sent it to the lab, and there was nothing wrong with it. She just could not handle that anxiety that came behind it, and she passed out. I was like, good God Almighty. Now, you mentioned something earlier, and I'm so proud of you for mentioning it because I don't think a lot of people realize these social media platforms and how it affects your mental health. Now, in stating that, I'll use X or Twitter as an example. No offense, Elon Musk, don't attack me, please. It's not your fault. It's something that's been happening for years. On these spaces, I've seen that it causes more distress and mental health issues than any other social media site. And I'll tell you why. Because you have so much misinformation, you have so much disinformation, you have so many people attacking you, bullying mentality. They
True.
click up on this and they start attacking people that seem like the weaker person, and it causes a mental breakdown in people. You know, you and I have been on that platform for a long time. How many
Yeah.
people have we seen come in there talking about aliens in the club? No offense to anybody that believes in this sort of thing. I mean, I believe there's extra life out there, but I'm not
True.
going to believe that, the moon is watching you walk when it's obviously in the sky. But in saying that, I've seen it do a lot more damage than I have any type of good. And I don't mean that in a negative aspect. Social media can be a great thing used at moderation. And I know that sounds very pharmaceutical, but at the end of the day, you have to learn where your limit is because it can be a hindrance on your everyday to day activity. You'd rather pick up the phone than that broom and get the dust off the floor. You'd rather comment on that instead of hang out with your kids. It's you're listening to people you do not know attack you, get mad, and go do stuff in regular life because of somebody you didn't know. That is very depressing.
You see the conversation, Reverend, like you're pointing out, there's several issues that I observe, and I saw it when we are even on, like, let's say, space on Twitter, which is like a global thing now. Everybody's on it. And I realized, because I was running a research as well, that the best moment to know man's weakness, the most like, let's say, the weakest moment in a man's life is when you don't see them physically. You're just hearing them talk. When nobody's seeing no faces, this is when you will know people's vulnerability, meaning they can do as they like, knowing that now they can expose their vulnerable part. Nobody knows their face. But when they see their face, you understand, they try to control that narrative. for some of them. On the same spaces, you have people that have what we call dramatic personality disorder, which is what I call, we know in psychiatry, histrionic personality disorder. What does it mean? I want to let everybody know that this is who I am. This is my problem. This is what is going on with me. Like the idea of making it be all about you is now very much common on social media. So the histrionic personality disorder, very much in existence. Have we also seen the idea of dependent personality disorder? That's what I call it, the dependent personality disorder, DPD,
Right.
meaning somebody's calling Reverend or Dr. Eddy to say, hey, I need help from both of you. I don't understand. I need help from both of you. You help them the first time, they come back the second time. Now, you
Right.
also have intermittent explosive disorder, common on social media, meaning nobody comes down to listen, explosive immediately with an insult or, more like mockery. They like to interject, they are not calm, you know, they're very anxious. They don't want to hear nothing. We have that group as well. We also have other groups, very different. This type cannot control their emotions. Every word gets to them and it worsens their mental health symptoms. Because when they come on spaces or let's say social platforms, TikTok or YouTube Live, they believe that maybe they should get some things to motivate them. Unfortunately, some, let's say, moderators don't know this. They feel like everybody's the same. And hence, you don't know what is getting to someone else and depleting their mental status. So, which is why sometimes I used to advise it, hey, not everybody should be on spaces. Not every conversation you should dive into or on TikTok Live or certain conversations because sometimes it can disturb you. You understand? It can disturb your mental health. And some of these
Right.
people don't even know. We have narcissists too, people that are like very narcissistic. That's narcissistic personality disorder. And then the last group that is very common, the schizophreniform group or schizotypal group. These ones just have their own authors. It's like saying whatever Dr. Eddy says is right 100%. You cannot make me leave Dr. Eddy. Whatever Reverend says is 100%. You cannot leave whatever Reverend tells you. They are stuck on that belief and psychology. It's very hard to
Right.
detach them from that concept. And when you try to do that, it becomes a big problem. And then we have the ones that believe that they can never be wrong, the manic ones that they can never be wrong in their life. They are more powerful than you. But do you know the funny thing? This group are the ones that when they break down, it's very hard to bring them back to normal. The therapy that they have to go through, the cognitive behavioral therapy, and lots of issues. So it's a whole new platform to study human behavioral pattern. That's what I see on social media. So that's it.
All right. You know what I call all of that in one nutshell? The social media hypochondriac.
Exactly. I agree with that word.
All all right. So the fifth question we have, and not the last question for the night, but the last question that I actually have before we jump into some awesomeness. How do you balance your practices in Nigeria and your personal life?
Well, how do I balance my practice? Fortunately enough, I'm one of those lucky ones. How will I say that? I was very curious to experience healthcare at an early stage when I came back to my home country. So when I came back around 2015, 2016 to 17, up to 2018, I was working with like private institutions, government institutions. And then because of what I was observing, because I love to see healthcare in a different perspective. I want to see people do well, the right environment and all that. I wasn't impressed with some of the politics I saw playing into healthcare. And sometimes I see patients crying, some don't have funding to fund their healthcare. And as a doctor, even when I was practicing in like some remote hospitals in Nigeria, I have to put my hands in my pocket and take out that, currency and try to pay for a patient because I don't want to see a patient crying. Or I heard the story that, they couldn't transfuse blood because we couldn't afford a blood bag or something. I was pained hearing things like that. Because over here, it's kind of like, struggling on healthcare and all that. Be it in other African countries I've gone to, Ghana, Togo, West African nations that have been opportune to visit. You observe that there are these deficiencies in like maintenance of healthcare, right provision to help. And this made me to feel like, no, I don't want to be a doctor that will be seated in the office. And Reverend, for example, walks into me every now and then. Oh, doctor, I have a problem, and I don't care about his other part of life. And I just write anything I want to write. You go purchase drugs now. I want to be more closer. I want to have a personal interaction with my patients. So hence, I changed my practice after, let's say, 6, 7 years. I started being on my own. I had my own clinic, and after a while, I gave it out to my friends. So I became more of like consulting for people privately and then working on telemedicine platforms, supporting people's projects that they want to reach out to people. Example, one of it is on my profile on my page, where I'm supporting a friend who is like trying to help women who are battling a lot of health issues and getting to reach them at their doorstep before they come to the hospital. So that's still a holistic kind of setup too, just like what we're discussing here. So with that, it gives me time to work remotely and then get to communicate. Thank God for social media. Thank God for internet. So anyone could easily reach out from be on LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere. And then, well, doc, what can you do for me? And then that reduces my time and helps me balance my own life. That means I have time for myself. I got time to review and study things. I got time to listen to people much better than if I'm fully in the hospital environment 247. I won't have that time. Some of my colleagues don't have that time. They're just going to tell you, well, you come only when you have your appointment. You can disturb me extra or, stress me. So that's the way I balance it up then. I'm not just conventional to medicine. I also distract myself with, listening to world politics, like, study other systems, try to learn to know what is going on in other parts of, sciences or arts. Because when you're balanced, like one of my mentors, Leonardo da Vinci, I love him so much. He wasn't just studying arts, he studied up to engineering, healthcare. He designed the womb, the uterus. He was the guy who first designed it. He studied a lot of things, the human body, and a lot of things he did, which we even use it in the ECG that was from Leonardo da Vinci's himself. So the truth here is you can be a balanced person if you're not so restricted to one scope in life. So not because I'm a doctor, I cannot flex my mental faculty into every area. But I know my major and I listen to other professionals. So that's how I am able to balance my life. And I wake up in the morning, I take my natural substances. I know you're gonna ask me, how do you do that? I could mix my ginger, garlic, and my lemons and make it very alkaline. I drink it. I go on a walk, and after my work, I sit down and then I start to check my phone for whatever I want to check. Now, when I'm done with that, I still have time to sleep. You gotta sleep 5 hours because at least we have what we call short sleeper syndrome. It affects a lot of people where you don't sleep so well, and then you are having a lot of issues later at night. Either you get headaches or migraines or whatever. So I have time to for rest, at least 5 hours of the day. Then I go on with other aspects of my life. So for me, if I sleep 5 hours, I can operate to like midnight or almost morning. You understand? It's different from someone who didn't sleep in daytime and you're taking, let's say, caffeine to still keep you awake. The body is overworked. It needs rest once in a while. At least give that 5 hours sleep if you cannot get 8 hours sleep. And then you go on with your life and, you do what you got to do. So that's it.
Well, you want to hear something funny? Two things, really. One, I'm the guy that gets 4 hours of sleep and relies on heavy caffeine like Celsius and other things of that nature to keep it going, but only because, and this is not justifying anything, because my baby, she has tracheoesophageal fistula type C.
Yeah, you told me.
So she has a chance of aspirating in her sleep. So what I do is I try to stay up as long as I can to let my wife rest, to watch her to make sure she doesn't aspirate. Because the last time she did, man, we it was the biggest scare of our lives. And I won't really throw her info out like that on here, but it was so scary that it made me look at life differently. I'm like, hey, man, I can sacrifice a couple of hours just to make sure she's straight. But other than that, you mentioned something else that was pretty cool, and that is that you look at all aspects of your patients, kind of like I do as a holistic health practitioner or a reverend. I look at all aspects. I look at the inside, I look at the mind. I check out the body. That's the outer symptoms. And I also check on the spirit. So, where are you spiritually? Obviously,
True.
you're going through some type of traumatic stress. So, what we need to do is put you in a peaceful atmosphere. How can I get you to calm down? Well, I usually let people know, hey, try this Blue Lotus real quick. You don't have to. You can put it in a tea or you can smoke it. It's up to you. It's completely holistic, and it's a very spiritual thing. That's why we are called Blue Lotus Ministries Inc. Because I really feel like that herb alone, that botanical, is very helpful. It helps people get off drugs. It helps people clear their mind, anxiety, all kind of great things. But we'll jump into that later. But I just know that there's so much more, especially in Ghana. Y'all have herbs that can help pain. Y'all have herbs that can do a lot of great things for the human body. And I just was like, man, I can't wait to talk to him about some of this stuff. So, uh,
No, you're
last,
right. You're right. We have a lot of herbs in Africa, West Africa, a lot. So let's dive into it. Let's see how it goes.
yeah, we're about to. So, now we're going to talk about holistic herbs, things of that nature. Let's explore some holistic herbs that have gained attention in both traditional and modern medicine. Now, let's delve into holistic herbs and their uses. Now, my favorite, of course, and you know I'm going to bring it up, is the Egyptian blue lotus, traditionally used in ancient Egypt rituals, my bad, ancient Egyptian rituals for relaxation and spiritual connection. Studies suggest it may aid in reducing stress and improve mood. What do you think about that?
Now, I'm going to say for like the Egyptian blue lotus, you are not wrong. It's a long-standing, stand herb that, let's say, this is the word flower, although they call it herb, that has been there and it's been very useful. When I studied, like they call it it belongs to a certain class of drugs that, I mean, a kingdom is a plant, like we all know already. And when you look at the
Right,
family that related to the nymph family or the nymphaceae family, there are
right.
lots of them. It's not just one of it. There's several types of it, and they are like aquatic plants. So they are more like aquatic plants you find in fresh water and more common in eastern part of Africa than even western part of Africa. But it's there in the Egyptian, northern part of Africa as well. In my little
South.
studies, when I look at it, when I look at something like the blue lotus that you're talking about, we've used it to solve a lot of health problems as well. So it depends on who uses it and how you use this as a holistic care person. We in the medical world may not want to use it directly. Probably we'll mix it with maybe any of our artificial pills to see how it works. So whenever you're getting stuff like this, the main thing is how do you titrate it? How do you use it? This one is not in my angle, it's in your angle. How do you guys use it? Do you guys know the side effects, the contraindication? Who should use it? You understand? What's the function like? So that's the main thing about any herb anybody's using. So I'm not going to say don't use it, no, because we've seen that it worked. If the Egyptians use it and it worked for them, how were they able to use it? At what quantity was it titrated? And the only thing I would add here in modern medicine is whenever you're using any herb, so that you will be on a good side. Sometimes you just send your patient, hey, you go run your liver function test. Let's see what your enzymes in your liver look like. Because one of the unique
Right.
places it affects is maybe the liver if you overdose yourself. So you have to know your status, like your organ status. My kidneys, my liver, how is it doing? Because we, in this part of our own practice, we'll be like, I hope your organs are good. And you should know, do you have toxins in that herb that can destroy your hepatocytes? If you don't have it, if it has been screened well, then you're good. You're good to go. Do you know how much you should take and how much you shouldn't take? These are the issues that we're going to point out. But if you talk about the effectiveness of it over time and decades, trust me, you're right. It has been there and it's being used over time.
Well, used in small doses, let's say microdosing it, right? Used in small doses, it can improve even your bedroom issues. It improves a lot of things, and I'm not going to put it on here like that.
No, it
But
works for sleep.
it
I can
is
agree. It works for insomnia too. It helps the people that are
right,
having issues with sleep disorders.
right, and it's an aphrodisiac, which is pretty cool to me. Other than that,
I
we'll
know that
move on
as well.
to yeah, we'll move on to the next cool botanical herb that I love as well. It's called wild dagger flower petals, smoked by indigenous tribes for mild euphoria and relaxation. It has a potential for reducing anxiety and managing mild pain. What do you think about this?
I also think that this is a good substance. I also had to look at it. The wild dagger flower petal, like you're calling it, as much as they call the name wild dagger flower petal, the way they put the name, someone is going to think that, oh, this is very dangerous. So I'm going to run from it. But it has a lot of benefits. The first thing before you say about the negative part of it, I usually like to point out those aspects of it. It's very good in managing headaches and migraines. It's one good thing. They use it to manage headache, migraines. Even some African tribes use it to manage snake bites. If a snake or a reptile gets to bite you, they use some of these wild dagger flowers to mix up stuff and is used for it. So it has a lot of healing powers as well. They use it in a lot of different parts of Africa as well. It has a euphoric effect when you smoke it so much. That one is going to make
Right.
you have those whole euphoric effect. Takes you to the different level. You feel so sedated, which we also advise don't be extreme on that. And for those who love to smoke stuff, I usually just tell the guys, see, hey guys, well, it's lovely to smoke, but you got to be careful how much you're taking them because you could still compromise your lungs. So everything needs to be
Right.
in moderation. You could develop chronic obstructive pulmonary disease if you're overdosing it, but that doesn't take away the positive effect of what these, herb has been used over time in history. And you're not wrong, like I said, it's been used for longer periods than even before we were born. So example, I
Exactly.
like, for me, I have migraines and I would love to try it, even when I'm a medical doctor. Like I have this disturbing migraine myself that once in a while it
Right.
comes. And sometimes I try my paracetamol, it doesn't work. I try my aspirin, it doesn't work. I try my diclofenac or naproxen, these guys don't work. So sometimes I observe if I take something that has high levels of what do you call this drug? There's a funny name, I'm forgetting in my head. Um there's a name that's coming to my head, I'm forgetting. There's a certain thing I mix and I take and has high content that is enough to calm me down. And suddenly that headache goes naturally. Naturally. Not even, I'm always surprised, like, oh, really, this works. So we cannot disapprove the advantages of stuff like the wild dagger, like what it does. Calms people down, helps to boost your immunity. It's very much there. So yeah, if you use it rightfully, like some of your traditional practice guys use it, it helps for headaches, muscle cramps, even respiratory symptoms, it helps to alleviate it. But it has to be recommended by specialists in alternative medicine, proper, and the holistic care people like you, not just people waking up to take it anyhow. That's all.
The cool thing about it, it also has cardioprotective properties. Isn't that dope? Like it helps with your cardiovascular system as well. Next one we have is my favorite again, ashwagandha. Is used for stress reduction. Clinical studies suggest it can lower cortisol levels by 30%. What do you think about that?
And yes, they're right. The ashwagandha is even accepted by some medical faculties. Yeah, we have even the WebMD. A lot of guys have started accepting it for its good positive effects. And also, remember the good thing about the medical world is we are we are always ready to welcome something that works, and then we take it further by saying, okay, let's deep into this. What does it have that is an advantageous stuff for the human health? For example, the biggest advantage of ashwagandha is it contains chemicals that can calm both the brain, reduce swelling within the brain, and also lowers the blood pressure, and also helps to boost the immune system. So it has that ability. And the Indians use it a lot. You understand? It even manages a lot of stress, people that battle anxiety disorders, sleep disorders. It helps to manage it. Although there was a point in time they said that it was even very good for the ashwagandha. It was good for like COVID-19, where people were like, oh, ashwagandha is good for COVID-19, but research wasn't done so much on it. That's my problem. If this is something works, you understand? I believe they should do more trials on something. All this natural stuff. Let's see what we can extract from them and get to use it. Not totally condemning them, except it really contains potential toxins, you understand, or very toxic to the human health. Then we say, okay, no, let's just push it aside. So it is very good for certain conditions, especially the blood pressure control. We have seen it work. It improves people that have persistent anxiety issues. It works. Stress, I've seen it work. And then the stress I'm talking about, people that have these issues with weight gain, the fat people, the people that are so big in size, the endomorphic guys, they want to control their sizes. They'll be like, oh, what can I do? The the herb helps, the ashwagandha, it helps a lot. So these are areas that I see this thing very effective. The side effects are there as normal, just like artificial pills have their side effects. You could get to this vomiting or having diarrhea, or you got a liver problem, which is one of the most common reasons or problems that arise from too much taking of certain herbs beyond the titration dosages. So it can disturb your liver. That's the biggest issue there, that sometimes it can make you go to get a liver transplant. So that's why it needs to be controlled and be under someone that will tell you, oh, take it within a safe period of maybe 2 months or 3 months and stop. And that's it. And also has some side effects, allergies. Not everybody loves that it loves their body. So some would develop some allergies to it. But it's well known that ashwagandha is very good. The Indians don't joke with it. Indians, all the Indians traditional practitioners play with the ashwagandha. Very important. So that's it.
Another one that the Native Americans love is passion flower. Native
And that's my
Americans used
favorite.
it.
I love the passion flower.
Right, Native Americans used it as a sedative and sleep aid. Research indicates it can reduce symptoms of anxiety and improve sleep quality. Now, this is one of my favorites as well, but I'll let you continue.
Why this is so unique is this? You see, earlier on when we had a conversation, the passion flower, or what they call the passion flora, which is very common. It's common in the South America, the United States. You guys have it a lot. It's also there in Africa and Asia. It has the hallucinogen, like this hallucinogenic effect. Of course, that is there. Everybody knows that one. The sedative effect, very much there. But let's dive into the functions. Like you mentioned one thing there, it helps people to calm down. Sleep disorders, it helps you a lot. So it has a psychoactive effect due to the high levels of alkaloids inside it. So those alkaloids are of different types. So when you're taking the passion flora of passion flower, you have to be careful the type you're taking because it's not all of them that are quite great. So as much as the flower is made up of what they call the beta carboline alkaloid database, you can see some of them that we call them the Haman, or we call them Hamalin or Hamalol. You have to be very careful which one you're playing. That is where your holistic care personnel or persons will tell you, hey, this is what you should use, this is what you shouldn't use. It also has nootropic effects. That means it has the ability to, work on a lot of receptors, not just one, the central nervous system, and a lot of receptors in the body. We have over 4 million receptors in the body, plenty of them. So it has the ability to do that. So you have to be careful the one you are using. So this is one thing I have to point out. It's perfect. It's kind of very good. We have the one that you can chew as fruits. People just eat it as fruits and it works for them. The only one sometimes we advise you don't take so much is don't smoke it. The smoking one seems to cause a lot of stress, but if you can eat it in your diet, put it in your meals, it works. That's the one that I would probably recommend that people play around with. The problem with smoking stuff is not like, oh well, it wouldn't have worked on your system. It's just that when you're taking in certain gases, they convert to carbon monoxide. So take note, it's not the content of the passion flora flower or the cannabis. The problem is just the conversion of the different gases. So when you take in and what goes to your lungs is carbon monoxide, meaning it's losing two hydrogen, stand molecules. That's not helping it. It needs to be normal. If it's not normal, your blood starts getting dark in color. It's not having that hem color, that red color that the blood should have. And so that means something is wrong somewhere. And with time, people develop clots within vessels. You understand? The lungs doesn't get the right perfusion or what we call the oxyhemoglobin. It's having a lot of the deoxyhemoglobin, and that is where the lungs break down. So that's the issue with anything smoking. So that's one point I have to also make. So hence, consuming it in other forms. Some even use it like the not just even the passion flower. Some use it as spray. They can spray it on the site of a wound or something or injuries. It works. Even the cannabis, the spray works. So there are different forms you should know, or you listen to your holistic care personnel, or your doctor will tell you, well, if you're on it, be careful. This is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. So that's it.
That was perfectly said. Another one I like is moringa.
Everyone loves
Nutrient,
moringa. Moringa tea, moringa, whatever. Everybody loves moringa. It has always been there.
also known as the tree of life, a nutrient dense plant known as the
it,
tree of
it,
life.
it is vast in a lot of vitamins, proteins, a lot of things. It helps people that are battling with issues of appetite. If you can't eat well, if you drink some
Right.
moringa, it helps you on that. And then it has antioxidant effect, the inflammatory function of helping to fight the bad radicals in the body. It's very unique. It's very nourishing. And then it heals the skin as well. And then the funny thing about moringa, people don't easily talk about. It has a way of protecting the liver. Now, take note prior to now, we are always against a lot of herbs because it attacks the liver. But moringa, in right quantity, is helping protect the hepatocyte. It has that function. So anyone drinking the tea, you understand, is going to enjoy it. So the unique miracle tree or the miracle thing we call the moringa, which is made from the back of trees, right? It's very unique. So moringa is very unique in a lot of antioxidant effects and anti-inflammatory properties it possesses. In
Right.
fact, if I start listing the vitamins, you'll be like,
Can you
oh, I
still hear
think
me?
you already know this. So that's it. Are you over there, Reverend?
It seems like we're having a little technical difficulties. But he is so right. You could put all of this into a tea, and it'd be very healthy and beneficial for you. I
Okay.
also want.
Uh,
Oh, I can hear you now. Okay, I can hear you. Thank you. Welcome
yeah,
back.
Reverend, are
So
you
sorry.
back?
Oh, it was me that was gone, huh? Can you hear me? Hello? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give a shout out to our incredible supporters. We are immensely grateful for the generosity and commitment of our sponsors, partners, and donors who make our mission possible. A huge thank you to Papa John's, Marco's Pizza, and for their ongoing donations to our Need to Feed outreach initiative, helping us provide warm meals to those in need. Our heartfelt appreciation to Publix, Walmart Spark Good Program, and MN Nice Botanicals for their unwavering support as sponsors, fueling our mission to uplift and nourish our community. We're also honored to partner with our partners Making a Way for the Elderly, or MWE Inc., Alice's Place Adult Daycare, and Alice's Place LLC. Together, we're working to feed the elderly, empowering each other, and inspire greatness in our community. Thank you for standing with us. Your support is the backbone of our impact. So sorry that Dr. Eddie had to. Are you still there, Dr. Eddie?
Yeah, I'm
You
back.
back
We
now?
had a little glitch, but we good.
Okay.
Perfect. We
I'll
had a
let
little
you.
glitch.
Yeah.
So we're talking about moringa. It's unique. Moringa is so unique. It has vitamin A, vitamin B1, B2, B3, vitamin C in large quantity, calcium,
Yeah.
potassium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus. So moringa is like a get go. And like you said something, it has very low, like it's very low in fat and contains
Right.
no harmful cholesterol, like the LDL, the low density lipoprotein. These guys are the bad boys. So instead, it helps to boost the HDL, the high density lipoprotein. So anyone having hypercholesterolemia issues or hyperlipidemia, as we call it too, you can definitely go on moringa tea. It's very good. Reduces
Right.
oxidative. It's perfect. It's like a tea that I recommend for everybody. Or the leaf itself. In Africa, what we do is I see my parents. Some of them just put it inside. They put the leaves inside something, grind it, extract it naturally, mix it with some water, and they drink it. So I'm like, wow, you guys are good. I never really knew how powerful moringa was until I dived into the studies, and I was like, oh wow, really? This is how powerful it is.
It's a very beautiful plant. You know, most of the things that we've mentioned today can be used in a tincture or tea. And I would prefer you do it that way than smoke it because I do know the damage to the lungs can be quite severe with some holistic herbs that were not mentioned today. But some of these will cause adverse reactions if you have mental disorders. And
True.
that is a claimer here.
Mm-hmm.
Disclaimer, my bad. But I want to thank everybody listening today for coming to the Blue Lotus Studios. Dr. Eddie, if you hang tight, we will actually have a conversation once this is done. But we do appreciate you listening. We will be back on with part two with Dr. Eddie coming up in the next couple days, maybe a week, depending on when he's free, because we do know that he is a busy man. If you want to, Dr. Eddie, give everybody your social media link. I mean, not link, but the at to your
And my
X.
Twitter
Uh,
handle. Yeah. So you can always reach out to me on Dr. Eddy Consult at Eddy Consult at EDDYCONSULT at Eddy Consult on Twitter. Very easy for you to get reach to me. It's easy. So that's it.
y'all have a great day and thank you for listening again. Goodbye.
Thank you.